I want to write books. That silence that followed, it didn't feel like the kind that's impressed. It felt like everyone was waiting for Mrs. Carmichael to open her mouth and destroy me. I took a breath and kept speaking. Fiction, mostly. Poetry, eventually. Maybe even speak at... She put her hand up like a stop sign. Nicole, be serious. I am serious. A few kids chuckled. Kyle from the back row whispered, "Ooh, watch out, someone's dreaming again." Ignored him and stepped back. We'd been asked to present one realistic career path in front of the class. Why was mine getting laughed at? Mrs. Carmichael took a long sip of her coffee like I'd personally offended it. "Look, Nicole, there's nothing wrong with art," she finally said. "In small doses. But you're treating it like it's a profession?" It is for some people. Sure, for people with industry connections, or money, or a trust fund. Are you hiding one of those? A burst of laughter broke out. I felt heat crawl up my face. "No," I whispered. "Exactly," she said, smug. "Now sit down. And next time, pick something attainable, like copywriting or teaching." I sat. But I didn't hear the next student's realistic plan to be a dental hygienist. I heard blood rushing between my ears. Jules caught up with me after class. "You okay?" she asked, jogging beside me. "Fine. You don't look fine." She humiliated me for what? Sharing a dream? She humiliated everyone, just not as dramatically. Jules gave a sideways glance. She told Logan he'd better sharpen pencils faster if he wants to be an architect. I laughed, but it died in my throat. Maybe she's right. No, she's bitter. I stopped outside my locker, biting the inside of my cheek, so I wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in the hallway. "That speech, you meant it, right?" Jules asked. "Every word," I said quietly. "I know it sounds dumb, but I've always wanted, I don't know, to matter. With words. Help people feel something. Be someone who made them think. That's not dumb." She looked at me like it was. "Well, screw her." I blinked. "You're not allowed to say that. You want to get into National Honor Society." She shrugged. "What's honor worth if you don't back your friends?" At home, I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, laptop, open and untouched. Every idea I wanted to write suddenly felt stupid. I opened a blank document, typed, "Maybe I don't belong here." Then deleted it. Then typed, "What if Mrs. Carmichael is right?" Deleted that too. My mom knocked once before peeking in. "You okay, kiddo?" Yeah. She didn't buy it. "You only say that when you're not." We stood in silence for a moment. Then she came in and sat beside me, floor style. "What happened?" I swallowed hard. "I told the class I wanted to write for a living." And she laughed. In front of everyone. My mom looked like she could have thrown hands. She said, "People like me can't make it in that world. That it's for rich kids or connected ones." She scooted closer and took my hand. "Nicole, you don't need a castle to build your own kingdom." Then why does she make me feel so small? Because she is. I laughed, even as a tear slipped down my cheek. "Write about it," she said. "You've always written your way through everything. Don't give her your silence." That night, I opened that blank document again. Typed, "One day, I like this one," Jules said, tilting my screen toward her. "Almost sounds like something you'd write." I froze. It was something I wrote. "Well?" she asked. "You gonna enter something or just keep writing for ghosts?" "I don't know," I mumbled, clicking away from the tab. "What's the point?" Jules crossed her arms. "Oh no. Don't start that again." "She's still talking about it," I said. "She told Logan yesterday that I set the class standard for dream delusion." Wow. So original. I cracked a smile. "Mrs. Carmichael, villain of the decade. You should turn her into a character. Give her 3 warts and a talking cat." She already has both, named sarcasm and superiority. We burst into laughter. God, I needed that. That night, I sat at my desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I opened my Google Doc. Title, Ashes aren't the end. I read every word like I didn't write them, just to see if they still stung. They did. Clicked submit on the local teen poetry submission page and closed my laptop before I could chicken out. 3 days later, the site posted the winners. I was one of them. First place. Ashes Aren't the End by NH. I stared at the screen so long I didn't realize my hands were shaking. Jules sent me a screenshot 10 minutes later with 14 exclamation points. I replied with just 2 words. Don't tell. Wait. Why anonymous? She asked me over lunch the next day, because it's mine that way. No judgment, no weird looks, just words. She softened. Okay. But when you're famous one day, I'm cashing in on being your first fan. By 11th grade, I had a poetry blog under the name NH Wild. Posts like, to the teacher who forgot how big dreams, start hands, full of ink what it feels like to be laughed at and still try. Anyway, and slowly. People started reading. Strangers left comments. A woman in Oregon messaged me. I felt this in my bones. High schoolers asked if they could share my poems with their drama club. Someone emailed, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" I almost fell off my chair. Senior year, a new teacher named Mr. Alvarez handed our class a printout of NH Wild's Not Ashamed to Fly Too High. This poem, he said, was written by someone your age. It's raw. It's bold. I want you all to study what bravery on the page looks like. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream, "It's me!" But I didn't. I just sat there and watched, as Mrs. Carmichael adjusted her glasses irritably in the corner. She didn't know. But oh, how I wished she did. One day in March, she pulled me aside after class. "I assume you haven't applied to the university writing program?" I blinked. "Why wouldn't I?" She smiled. That smug kind of smile. "You don't have a publication record. It's competitive. Your essays are..." "Okay. I've submitted work." "Well, fingers crossed then." I walked out with a fire I hadn't felt since I was 13. At home, Mom found me printing poems like a madwoman. Whoa. We rewriting the dictionary? I'm applying everywhere. Every program. In-state, out-of-state, scholarships, fellowships. Anything that doesn't require me to have her in my future. Mom didn't ask. Just grabbed my second stack. Then let's hole punch destiny. That night I posted a new poem. Some fires burn quiet until they're wild enough to swallow the sky. Next morning, it had 28 shares, then 143, then thousands. Something had started. Rejected. I stared at the word like it had slapped me. Jules peeked over my shoulder at the email. That's 6 now, right? 7. Jesus. I scrolled down, rereading the sentence. Unfortunately, your voice is not a fit for our current literary vision. What does that even mean? Jules muttered. Your voice isn't a fit? What? Are they allergic to good poetry? I tried to laugh. Couldn't. Instead, I clicked to the next email. Another application decision? Do it, Jules said softly. Dear Ms. Hayes, we appreciate your submission. However, I closed my eyes until the words blurred. Maybe they're right, I whispered. Nope, we're not doing this. I'm being realistic. You're being wrecked. Graduation came like a bad breakup. Everybody was celebrating, and I was secretly crying on the inside. I got hugged. I got clapped for. I got told, you'll do amazing things. But no acceptance letters. No yes. 2 weeks after school ended, I got a job folding denim in a factory outlet. It's temporary, Mom said, dropping me off. You just need footing. It feels like drowning, I muttered. The store smelled like despair and cheap body spray. The break room microwave didn't work. My manager called me the creative one, but not like it was a compliment. Hayes, less dreaming, more folding, she said on day 3. My blog slowed. Posts barely reached triple digits now. Comments faded. Even NH Wild felt like someone else. A better version of me I'd left behind. One night, I came home, threw my apron on the floor, and stared at the ceiling fan. Maybe Mrs. Carmichael was right. Mom looked up from her crossword puzzle. You're saying that because people didn't clap fast enough. No, I sighed. I'm saying it because I tried everything, and no doors opened. She walked over, sat beside me on the couch. Sweetheart. Do you know what her job was? I blinked. English teacher, dream killer, soul crusher. Mom smiled faintly. No, her job was to grade essays, not predict futures. I swallowed hard. We didn't say anything for a few minutes. Then she said, if she was so good at foreseeing success, why didn't she become who you're trying to be? Still, something shifted in me after that. I stopped checking email obsessively. I stopped chasing replies like they owed me something. I just wrote again, badly, honestly. One late night after a shift where a customer threw jeans at me, I posted a piece titled, Maybe I Wasn't Born for Applause. It read like a prayer and a dare all at once. I didn't check stats afterward, closed my laptop, slept for 10 hours. 2 days later, I got a message. No subject line, just this. I read your post. I cried in my car. I'm a 43-year-old woman who's never chased a single dream. But today, I pitched a book idea for the first time. I don't know if I'll make it, but now I believe it's not stupid to try. Thank you for not giving up. Lucy J. Jules found me crying at the kitchen table. She gasped. You get into NYU? Better, I sobbed. I got seen. That weekend, something flipped inside me. I reopened every rejection email, every no. I printed them, made a collage above my desk, a wall of defiance. You hanging up your L's now? Jules teased. I call it my almosts. I posted a new poem. They aren't saying no to what you are. They're saying not here to where you're not meant to stay. It went viral. I didn't care how many followers NH Wild had. I just cared about the ones reading in parking lots, crying, because I'd been there too. NH Wild, I love your voice. Ever pitched a book? I reread the comment 5 times before I remembered how to blink. Jules knocked twice on my bedroom door, then barged in anyway. You alive in here? I turned my screen toward her. Look, she squinted. What? The poem? No, the comment. Jules leaned in, reading aloud. I'm an indie editor, small press. I think you have something rare. Email me when you're ready to publish a book. She literally gasped. This is it. This is the moment. Unless it's a scam, I said flatly, heartbeat racing. She pointed at the verified badge beside the username. Not a scam, a badge, a book nerd badge, royalty, basically. I clicked her profile. Editor, author, founder of a boutique literary company in Portland, Jules. Grinned. Told you real people read your stuff. I stared at the screen. What if I'm not ready? She crossed her arms. Nicole, you've written enough poems to fill 3 books and an HBO miniseries. You're ready. I stared at a blank email. For 2 days. Then I finally typed, Hi, thank you for your comment. I've never published anything long form, but I've been writing for years. I don't know if I'm what you're looking for, but I'd love to learn more. Nicole, aka NH Wild. I clicked send before I could panic. Then I closed the lid and threw my blanket over my head like it was a lead shield. Her response came. The next morning, your work is stunning. It hits in that soft, scary part, just beneath the ribs. Let's talk about collecting your strongest pieces into a debut. Think, a memoir in poetry style. I'll walk you through it. I dropped my phone on the floor. Then I picked it up and screamed. Putting together the book felt like therapy, and surgery, and dancing barefoot in the woods. Ashes aren't the end. Some fires burn quiet. A world for the weird girls. I hope someone laughs one day and thinks of me. I emailed everything back in a single zip file. Weeks passed. Then came the mock-up cover, a release date. Pre-orders. Jules literally screamed in the checkout line at Target when she got the email. You're going to be on Amazon, she said, half laughing, half crying. Do you even realize what that means? I might throw up, I whispered. You should. But like, pride vomiting. I visited my old school to drop off a donation check for the journalism club. You know who was in the office? Mrs. Carmichael. She looked up, surprised. Well, if it isn't Nicole Hayes, Still scribbling poems? I smiled. Actually, I have a book coming out next month. A beat. Oh, self-published? Small press. Real editor. ISBN and everything. She cleared her throat. Well, congratulations. It sounded like swallowing vinegar. I didn't stay long. I wasn't there for approval. At home, I signed my first pre-ordered copy to Lucy J. The Parking Lot Dreamer. From a voice that almost gave up release day, hit harder than any high school test ever did. Orders rolled in, emails flooded. 1. Librarian wrote, "Your book made our entire creative writing class cry." A college professor invited NH Wild to Zoom with their students. Jules texted, "Nicole, they don't just read your work now, they teach it." I sat alone on my porch that night, holding the book in my hands like it was a newborn. I whispered the words I wrote when I was 17, just to feel them land again. One day they'll invite me back here, and I'll stand on her stage. Fire hadn't gone out. It had just burned too quietly to see, until now. "Hey, your inbox is exploding," Jules said, waving her phone like it was on fire. "I know, I'm scared to open half of them." Her eyes widened. "Here's one you should open." She read aloud, "Dear NH Wild, we'd be honored to have you join our Young Voices panel at the River City Youth Arts Conference this spring. Would you consider being a featured speaker for our opening night?" I sat down. "Fast, Nicole." Her voice got soft. "They're inviting you to inspire writers like you used to be." I've never spoken in front of that many people. You've already said everything. Just this time, they'll be listening. For 2 weeks, I practiced in my room. Aloud, alone, to Jules, to the cats, to my mirror. I rewrote the speech 5 times. "I'm not a motivational speaker," I told my reflection. "I'm just a girl who hated high school and survived it through poetry." But every time I practiced the line, I was told my dreams weren't realistic. My voice cracked halfway through, because it was still true. The night of the event, I wore black jeans and a gray blazer. Plain, professional, safe. Jules fixed my hair while I replayed worst-case scenarios in my head. What if I freeze? What if I cry? What if it's awkward silence for 7 straight minutes? "Then you'll be relatable as hell," she said. We both laughed. Then I got in the car and drove to the place where my voice would either land or fall flat. The auditorium glowed under amber lights. It smelled like paper, pencils, and anxiety. A guy with headphones waved me backstage. "You're our opener, right? NH Wild?" My throat dried out, but I nodded. "Yeah, that's me." "You okay?" "I'm about to throw up for a great cause," he chuckled. "Good sign. That means you care." When they called my name, the crowd clapped politely. When I stepped up to the microphone, they went quiet. The kind of quiet that means people want to hear. I quickly glanced at the second row. 6 teachers, 5 students scribbling in journals. A grandmother in pearls. My palms were sweating. Then I saw a girl in the back, no older than 15, chewing the strings of her hoodie. Eyes locked on me like I was the only thing keeping her floating. I started speaking. I was told I shouldn't aim too high. That writing was cute. That dreams were for rich kids or lucky ones. I believed that for too long. They were listening. And then I gave myself permission to do it anyway. Not because I was brave, but because I was tired of being small to survive. Someone in the second row nodded hard. A teacher teared up. Even my hands stopped shaking midway through. After the talk, the hugs came. 3 students asked for book signings. One said she started a poetry blog under a fake name too. The girl from the back? She just whispered, "Thank you," and handed me a folded poem she'd written during my speech. In the parking lot, Jules tossed me a water bottle. "Yeah," she said. "You're not a motivational speaker." I looked at her, chest full. "Are you sure about this?" Jules asked from the passenger seat. "Nope." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel as the green, "Welcome to Ashton Ridge" road sign blinked past my window. Same cracked sidewalks, same narrow gas station by the old red truck. Same feeling like the walls were closing in, only now I was too big to fit inside them. "They invited you," Jules reminded me. "Not the other way around." "It's just a reading at the community center," I mumbled. "Not Carnegie Hall." "You could read cereal box copy and still make people cry," she smirked. "Especially after chapter 5 of your book, Poetic Queen." I gave her a side glance, but I smiled. We parked across from the same park where I used to journal under trees. I hadn't been back in 4 years, not since I left for college and never looked back. But now? My face was on the flyer taped to the community board outside the coffee shop. An evening with N.H. Wild, Local Dreams National Voice. Readings. Q&A. Book signing. My actual name, Nicole Hayes, was in tiny letters underneath. Jules raised her brows. "They're low-key flexing that you lived here." Imagine that. Inside the center, folding chairs filled fast. A small podium waited under a string of fairy lights. I adjusted the mic, fingers ice cold. "She used to sit in this very room," the MC announced with a smile. "Now she's here to remind us all that roots don't stop you from flying, unless you let them." I stepped up, cleared my throat, pulled out 3 folded pages from my bag. "I grew up 5 blocks from here," I began. "I was the girl in class who got laughed at for saying I wanted to write books." I'll never forget that silence, the kind that wasn't proud, just patient for your failure. Some people shifted in their seats. I was told my dreams were unrealistic, that I should pick something attainable. A few teachers in the crowd exchanged awkward glances. I paused, heartbeat steady, and for a while I believed it. After the reading, handshakes became hugs. Students asked questions. Elderly women pressed $5 into my palm to support young ambition. One girl asked, "How do you keep going when nobody believes in you?" I answered honestly, "You believe for the days they won't, and you write for the one who will." As people began trickling out, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned. Mrs. Carmichael, older now, glasses heavier, same tight smile. Nicole, she corrected. "It was a lovely event." "Thank you. I read your book." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you?" She nodded slowly, hands folded in front of her. "Some of it felt familiar." "I imagine it would." Silence. Then she sighed. "I hope you understand. I didn't mean to discourage you." "You did, though. I wanted you to be practical." "No, you wanted me to stay small. And that's not the same thing." Her lips tightened. Whether from guilt or pride, I couldn't be sure. "Well, either way," she said, glancing toward the exit, "you've done well for yourself. You should be proud." "Thank you," I said. "I am." Outside, Jules snapped a photo of me beneath the flyer. "Victory looks good on you. It feels heavy." I exhaled. But finally, mine. We passed my old high school on the drive. Back, the lights were on in one classroom, corner window, second floor. "English wing," I muttered. "Carmichael's room." "Maybe still is." Behind the glass, someone moved. A student gathering papers, maybe, or a teacher pacing, or a dreamer waiting to be heard. The email came at 9:07 a.m. Subject line, Keynote Speaker Request, Ashton Ridge High School. I stared at it for what felt like an hour before I clicked it. "Dear Ms. Hayes, as part of our Senior Career and Creativity Expo, we would be honored to feature N.H. Wild as our keynote speaker this year. Our students are big fans of your work, and we believe your story could deeply inspire the next generation. Sincerely, Principal Leonard Ashton Ridge High School." I called Jules before I could second guess. "They want you to what?" "Speak at the expo. As in, give a keynote." "At the school. That school." She practically exploded through the phone. "It's happening. The prophecy, the dream board is real." "I feel nauseous." She sobered. "Okay, yeah, that makes sense too. Standing on that stage, in the same Room where I got mocked? Where I hid poems behind my textbooks? Nick, don't go back for them. Go back for you. That version of you who needed someone like you. I sat down on my porch and stared into the sky. Winter clouds, heavy, quiet, just like that classroom had been. 3 days later, I replied, I accept the invitation. Looking forward to returning. Nicole Hayes, N.H. Wild. The gymnasium hadn't changed. Same squeaky floors, same outdated banners, same front row for honored guests. I could smell the floor wax and burnt popcorn. You good? Asked Lena, one of the student volunteers, leading me backstage. As good as someone about to address 400 teenagers and their judging teachers can be. She grinned. You got this. I read your book. It made me text my dad when we hadn't talked in months. My throat went tight. Thank you. It reminded me it's okay not to be okay, and to have plans bigger than this town. The principal stepped to the mic. And now, our keynote, Ashton Ridge alumna, author of Ashes Aren't the End, and the voice behind N.H. Wild, Nicole Hayes. Applause erupted. Whispers, too. It was surreal, the same walls that once made me feel invisible, now echoing my name. I stepped up, gripped the sides of the podium, took a breath. Raise your hand if you've ever been told your dream is unrealistic. Dozens of hands shot up. I'm Nicole, I said, once a girl who sat where you're sitting, tired, quiet, and absolutely sure I'd been born in the wrong zip code. A few students leaned forward. I had a teacher who told me that writing wasn't a real career, that dreams like mine belonged to rich kids or lucky ones. A ripple went through the room. Some teachers shifted uncomfortably. I believed her. For a little while. I let the silence hang. Then I smiled. But I didn't stop writing. I shared pieces from my book, but more than that. I shared what no one ever showed me. That success doesn't always look shiny. That rejection doesn't mean you're wrong. That your voice only disappears if you stop listening to it. After the talk, a flood of students came up. Some shy, some crying. One hugged me and whispered, my art teacher said my paintings were pointless. Until I saw yours in our classroom last week. Another shook my hand like I'd given him a map. And then, she's here, Jules whispered behind me. 2:00, green sweater. Mrs. Carmichael stood at the back. She looked smaller than I remembered. I made my way over slowly. Nicole, she said, you really turned into something. I always was, I answered, calm. A pause. I'd like to think I helped push you. I'd avoided this room for years. The auditorium, same dusty curtains, same flickering exit signs, same stage where Mrs. Carmichael used to sit, arms folded, pretending not to scowl during student presentations. Now, there was a reserved seat with my name tag taped to it. The poet returns, Jules whispered beside me. I tried to smile, but the lump in my throat weighed heavier than my nerves. There were 36 seniors in this room the day I told them I wanted to be a writer. I said softly, you remember? I remember how they laughed. The lights dimmed. The MC with the clipboard hesitated. Do you, want to use a podium or? No podium, I said. I'll stand on my own. Walking up those steps was like moving through quicksand and lightning at once. I reached center stage, took the mic, and faced them. Rows of teenagers, teachers, parents. Behind their faces, I saw the past. The 15-year-old me, hunched in the fourth row, writing poems in the margins of my algebra notes, cleared my throat, and began. I used to sit out there. Regular seat, regular notebook. I said I wanted to be a writer, and my teacher snorted and said, be realistic. A few students leaned closer. What she didn't realize was, her voice echoed in my head for years. Every time I applied, somewhere. Every time I clicked submit. Every rejection, I thought of her face. A sharp hush fell over the room. But you know what else I kept hearing? I held up a small slip of printer paper, yellowed at the edges. My own words. This was from the first poem I ever printed out, taped in my locker so no one else would see. If I believe them, I lose me. If I write anyway, I win, even if nobody claps. Someone in the back whispered, "Wow." I smiled. And now, people clap. Not because I'm lucky, but because I didn't let silence feel like proof. I read a new poem, one I'd never shared before called Podium. They said I shouldn't need one. They said I shouldn't stand here. But they forgot. The quiet kids grow teeth, and the dreamers write their own spotlights. I am not the girl you forgot. I'm the echo that came back louder. When I looked up, half the room was in tears. After the final applause, students formed a line, phones out, copies of my book in hand. A girl with thick glasses told me, "My teacher makes fun of my fantasy stories." "Write them anyway," I said. A boy whose voice cracked said, "When you read, I stopped hating how quiet I am." "What matters," I told him, "is that you never silence yourself." I meant every word, especially for them. Backstage, Mr. Alvarez, my old substitute turned full-time teacher, clapped me on the shoulder. "You just undid a whole decade of damage, Ms. Wilde," I whispered. "I did it for the ones who still need permission. You just gave it to them." Jules waited by the car later, grinning like a teenage fangirl. "That," she said, "was a masterclass. It felt like reclaiming oxygen. So ready for the night after the auditorium speech, I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. Jules was asleep on the couch, one hand still clutching her phone, buzzed out from excitement and takeout. And me? I opened my laptop, created a blank document, and I began to write the letter I needed at 16. "Dear Mrs. Carmichael, I don't know what you'll do with this, but I need to write it anyway. Because writing is where I've always gone to pull myself back from the ledge." I wanted to say this back then, but I didn't know how. When you laughed at my dream, I believed you. I believed I was ridiculous. I believed I'd never be good enough to live a life built around words. I believed I was weak for wanting more than small-town jobs and practical majors. And maybe that belief drove me for a while. But here's what I wish you'd said instead. "I see something in you. Keep going." Just that. Just once. Just one thread of light. It could have changed everything. Still, somehow, I changed anyway. I took the broken pieces and built poems with them. I took the rejection and turned it into rhythm. I took every sentence you tore apart and filled notebooks with what I wasn't brave enough to say out loud. And now? Now I speak it where echoes used to be. You didn't have to believe in me. That wasn't your job. But I've learned it was always mine. So thank you for the silence, for the snarky comments, for the sting. You taught me what a voice is worth, by being the reason I had to claim mine. No bitterness left, no fire, just a pen, still moving. Nicole, N.H. Wilde. I didn't send the letter. I didn't need to. Writing it was the release. Because I finally realized the words I always needed to hear. I'd learned how to write them for myself. It was a cool spring morning when I saw her. 14, maybe 15. Backpack too big for her shoulders, bangs covering her eyes, spiral notebook clutched like armor. She sat alone at the back of the auditorium, knees pulled up, pen scribbling like it was urgent. Something about her felt familiar. After the session ended, as students trickled out, she stayed. I walked over slowly. "Hey," I said, soft. She looked up, startled. "I'm not trying to interrupt. I just noticed you were writing." She nodded. "Poetry." She hesitated, then held out her notebook. A page filled with shaky handwriting and hearts in the margins. I read the first stanza and felt my chest catch. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. It was raw. Honest. Braver than she knew. "This is beautiful," I said. She blinked at me. "Do you mean it?" "I absolutely mean it." Her shoulders relaxed. Her eyes shimmered. "No one's ever said that before," she whispered. I smiled. "I know how that feels." After she left, I sat alone in the front row, staring at the stage lights dimming one by one. I used to be terrified of stages. Now, they feel like mine. I used to write poems no one read. Now, they print them, teach them, feel them. But none of that matters more than moments like this, when another dreamer, hidden in the shadows, hears yes for the first time. Jules texted me, "Next stop, Seattle." 2 schools in one day, you ready? I replied, "Always." As I packed my bag, I tucked 2 things inside: a worn-out poem called Ashes Aren't the End, and a clean, blank notebook. You never know when someone needs a page to begin. I used to think making it meant hearing applause. Now I know better. It's hearing your own voice in a room that once tried to silence you, and realizing others are echoing back. I left the auditorium humming a line from one of my oldest poems. Let